Good afternoon, everybody. So I thought I would do a video on building a semi uh, inexpensive bog pod death grip conversion to a ball tripod head, and kind of talk about that. Talk about setting up a kestrel and also having space to do some expansion. And so I thought I would just show you kind of how my setup was. I do keep a ribbon on my tripod just to help with wind direction. This is kind of on the heavier side of things. This is a coal tack setup, but it does work really good. But if you know, like, it's not going to tell you like a flag if it's 5 miles an hour or 10 mile an hour wind. It's just going to help you with wind direction. So my bog pod death grip looks a little bit different, as you can see. This has a little bit of an aluminum shiny piece to it, and that's because I unscrewed the part that originally was set up on the bog pod and converted it to a tripod head, and this is the Vortex tripod ball setup. It was like $299, or it's like $300. I already had the death grip, so like I wouldn't build this setup if you're trying to be purposeful about it. I would go with a different tripod setup altogether. So, but this is just to kind of give you an idea of, okay, well, I already have a death grip. How do I make some conversion to it? And so this is a machined piece of aluminum that has a threaded piece on the top, so you could screw the tripod head on it. There's a guy on Facebook that makes them. I can't remember his name at the moment, but he was part of a coyote hunting group that my brother was in, and I seen that he was making them. So any machinist can make these. I think they're on Etsy and stuff like that. Just type in bog pod death grip ball head conversion or something, and it will probably pull right up. The main reason I'm making this video is to kind of discuss how to get like your kestrel set up on here, as well as maybe getting a pair of binoculars if you use binoculars, or some other setup that you might want to do so that way you can actually look through a spotting scope or something like that. So this is actually for, let me take this piece off. So this right here is a Sunwave Photo DMP 200R. It's used for actually cameras, but it is, as you can see, I can attach it to Arca Swiss because it's Arca Swiss compatible. So it's got actually two Arca Swiss slots. Can you see that? As you can see there, there's a slot there, so it's dual slotted. So that allows you to hook that up here. So this way you don't have to go with like a $300 plate. It seems to be pretty sturdy, so I don't feel like there's going to be any issues that way. This is a Sunwave Photo DDB-53. I got all this stuff on Amazon. This is like $20, but it's a two-way Arca Swiss clamp, so you can clamp one way and then clamp another. So this is an Arca Swiss plate, and this is a 1/4-20 extension tube. This one's carbon fiber. It was like $20. But I just set this up like here. And so what it does is it just gets your extension above your head for your kestrel setup that I'm going to show you here in a second. And that the Arca Swiss plate that I got screwed into this, it came with this 1/4-20 screw that you needed to screw up into the bottom of this piece right here. It is DP-50SR. Works really good. I feel like it's pretty sturdy. But this will just get your kestrel lifted up into the air a little bit, as you can see. Move this. There we go. And so I have a basic Kestrel wind meter that I use. And so the reason why I use that specifically is just because before I knew any better, I bought a basic Kestrel with the expectation of using like a ballistic zap like Ford off. Well, since then I've come to be a bigger fan. As you can see, these just slide in here, of actually a standard Kestrel, which I'm going to eventually upgrade to, but for now I'm actually doing okay without it. I just would prefer to have it. So this is the weather vane set up for the standard Kestrel. They actually have an inexpensive ballistics one as well that this is actually technically designed for, but this just gets everything here, and it can kind of spin freely around that. It adapts to a 1/4 20, and you just screw a thumb screw on top of that extension, and it will go directional that way. But I went with a little bit taller one so it doesn't hit me in the head while I'm looking through my spotting scope. So it should work without impede that way. Let me get in my bag here real quick. So I don't have endless money, unfortunately, at least not yet. And so I've had to be a little bit smart about how I've structured my stuff. But I have the standard Kestrel 2500. This is the night vision version, I do believe. And so it's just green. It does everything I need it to do, at least for now. I would prefer something different, but like I said, it does work pretty good. So that in here like so, and then you just wrap this guy around. And you can just clip that on there. So you don't want this piece on here, you just take this off, but just for the purposes of showing you, that's how that will work, and it will still grab wind like it's supposed to. And so that's how that setup's supposed to work. So it works pretty good. So it'll turn the direction, it'll show you the direction of the wind speed and stuff like that. And so once I put my initial weather information into this thing, I don't actually go back really throughout the day, because pressure and elevation isn't really changing, I guess, unless you're maybe out west somewheres. But in the East Coast, in Michigan here, in Pennsylvania, Georgia, all those places, you can pretty much take it once throughout the day and it's going to be the same. Maybe in some of the more hotter climates than Michigan, you might need to take a change midday or something like that, where it warms up significantly from the morning to the afternoon. But that would probably be the exception there. And then my spotting scope, so just attaches here. But this will then allow me to do both. So now I can use the spotting scope, have the weather vane set up. I actually really could fit, if I push this out to the edge, I could set up another one of these, and I could actually put a rangefinder in between the two. It would fit, but I don't really do a lot of ranging at the targets, unless I'm like kind of confused about maybe where a target actually is or something like that. And the course of fire will tell you like direction and stuff like that, and then you can kind of say, okay, well, that is that target because it's measuring to the distance that it's stating, or really close to it or something. So, but this is kind of like a breakdown of how you can get a weather vane on your stuff, and as you can see, it's pretty far above, so even if I'm looking into this, it's not going to hit me in the head. So that's really what that's about. It gets a little bit higher up into the weather, so it gives you some of that aspect as well. So it's maybe really seeing the wind, because your bullet flight's actually significantly higher than your head in most cases for us because we're shooting at distance. So this is how my setup is though. So all this is just a camera plate that's like 35 or 40 bucks. This guy's 25, this is 39. It comes with the one clamp on it, the Arca clamp on the bottom of the pole, or the extension, the quarter 20 extension. That's like 15 bucks. And the additional Sunwave Photo DDB-53, this two-way anyways, is like 39 bucks. So you're coming in significantly under what like the cost of a plate, and then buying all of the stuff to connect it to it. If you're not trying to shoot off of this is perfectly fine. All I use this for is just the holding my gear. So I don't need it to be bomb proof in the aspect of shooting off of it. So if I'm going to be shooting off of it, I just use my Area 419 setup here. We kind of went over, you know, with the coal pack debag and the rail changer X. So if I can get that out. So the rail changer X will work for that. So if you, and I got so much sand in this, it's really hard to push. I need to take it apart. But if you take your bag off, it has an Arca adapter on there, so you can push this guy in. So you can take this whole setup off when you go to shoot. Super light. You just set it in your bag for a second. You know, then you could throw your medium on top of it or whatever you want to do to shoot off it. So like if you had a stage where you needed the tripod back, then you're only undoing one screw, where you see the guys that are trying to reuse their plates because they're so expensive. This allows me to not have to do that, so I don't have to reuse the plate, so I'm not unscrewing all my stuff, because you do have spots on here to make some attachments. You could theoretically add some setup to this, and this is very, very stable. Don't get me wrong, it's super stable. So that is one option, but then you'd have to unscrew off of your plate if you wanted to use your plate with your D-bag or whatever else you're attaching to this. So in my mind, just to make things easier, I leave this the way it is, and then it allows me to use this Amazon Sun Photo setup, and it kept it very inexpensive, but allowed me to still achieve what I need to achieve there. If you have the ballistics calculator built into your Kestrel, they have a different vane for that, so just make sure that you order the proper vane setup. So but that's how I do that. So then you can set up your bag however you want it. You can turn it to where it's, you know, you can put your rifle there, super stable. But then if you're shooting a stage where you need to move this, it's not attached to it anymore, and you can move on to whatever you need to do. So that's kind of a breakdown quickly of how I get a weather vane tripod set up, how I converted the bog pod, kind of give you an idea of what I did there. If you have a friend with a lathe, even better, they can make you one of these out of an aluminum piece for a couple bucks. They're not very expensive. The guy only charged like 30 or so, 40 bucks or something for that machined aluminum piece to go inside the bog pod, but it just allowed me to save a few $100s on the tripod, just because I already had it. This death grip is the carbon fiber one, so I don't know, because the other one's fairly inexpensive. You could probably just sell that off or whatever and reuse it, but to buy a carbon fiber tripod is, you know, a really inexpensive one's 400 bucks. A higher end one's upwards of 600, 700, 800 bucks, depending on which one you're using. So I felt like this is a happy medium. If I break it, no problem. I'll just get a different tripod at that point. But I figured, well, since I already have this, no sense of throwing money out the window, repurpose, reuse what you already have. But this is kind of how I did a pretty inexpensive setup. And nice thing is I already own the Area 419 plate here, so I was able to reuse that in a way too. So there are some benefits there. So that's how that works. But the primary video I just wanted to show you was, okay, here you go. You can get that set up. Super easy, effective and inexpensive. I really wouldn't say cheap. It's I feel like it's decently machined enough to where you're not going to have any problems with it, but it breaks down so quickly to put back in your bag. So I wouldn't try to put the in your bag with the vane all that apart. Take it apart because I don't feel like that's sturdy enough to survive in your pack. At least in my Ranger pack that I have for Mebbler stock, just the way it's set up, I don't think it would do well. So for me, just unscrew the screw plate, or unscrew this thumb wheel here, as you can see. Well, it's this one right here, so you turn that. The weather meter is in there really good. Like, I don't feel like that's going to fall out and break or anything. You need this cover, but I feel like you might want to have it to where the cover just slides on without all this loop stuff on there. So you might want to be able to take that off so you can make that work a little easier. All you have to do is just take the knot out. That's what I would suggest doing. So this just gives you a little bit of a breakdown on how I do that. You can actually put this to where it's set up on your belt. I probably would not do that just because with the PRS masses the way they are, I feel like it would probably not do real great in surviving through all the stages, but that just pulls off. So this breaks down. It comes with a little bag. I just stick it in here like so. And me, I throw it in the top of my pack, so that's that for that. And then I leave the plate attached to this guy, obviously, all the time. It's got some stops in there, so it just gives it a little extra security so it can't slide all the way out onto the ground and break. So I leave that in there, but you can technically take these two out to screw it in. It came with the screw that it screwed into in the center. And then obviously you leave your plate on your spotter all the time, so I just think this makes sense to do it that way. But this is kind of the setup how I leave it all the time, and it just makes for a very affordable, throw it in the top of your pack, and I don't feel like it's going to break. It's decently machined aluminum. You can get some other plates like these that you just screw in here. There's holes, so you can screw those in. I wanted to be able to slide it around just in case I wanted to make some changes to it. And so for I understand it's 20 bucks more, but the modularity of it made sense to me to be able to slide it. So that's the breakdown of all that. The tripod head I really like. I actually like this Vortex tripod head quite a bit. And the benefit of being Vortex is that you break it, you send it back, and they'll give you a new one, although it's very sturdy, so I think you'd be probably hard pressed to do some serious damage to it. I have thought about changing this piece out that came with it to more of a quick detach, but then you run into every rail's a little bit different, so I haven't really decided there if I was going to do something like that, like put a really right stuff on it or something of that nature because of the flipper situation there. Thanks for your time. I hope this was helpful, and message me with any questions. Well, I thought I would just take this apart real quick. So it's kind of an addition to, so that's what the machine piece of aluminum looks like. Not a big deal. So this just goes through here like so. After you get that out, it's got a little piece in there. I honestly thought about maybe epoxying that in there. Yeah, so then you take your tripod head, you have to do a little bit of taking apart on that. So the spring washers are just allowing everything to lock up really good. There you go. And then just gonna loosen everything, and it will allow it to move and rotate, do as needed. Oh, I don't really like how that turned out, but it's not going, as you can see, once you lock it down, you can really, I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on it, and it won't rotate or do anything silly like that on you. So it is on there really good. So that's how that tripod works, and then the rest of it is simple. So you just have that on there like so, and clamp it in the rest of the way. This is attached, this plate here, clamp is attached to the plate permanently, so that's just one less thing you have to manage. So I really like that. Plus it saves you money because then you don't have to buy it. So they do make ones that are wider and different things like that. They're all measured out in millimeters. So use a Google app converter deal, and it will tell you millimeters to inches. So then you know, okay, 200 or 300 millimeters, what that will be. So, but I just wanted to give you a rundown of what that looks like.